Welcome back to the 2016 Causeway Scrabble Challenge here in Johor Bahru, Malaysia. We are on the final day of play. My name is Jesse Matthews alongside Chris May as we provide yet another matchup between the two best players in the world. Sorry, there's nothing else in the background there. He's done now. Yeah, the two best players in the world, and clearly showing it here as they provided us with some quality matches, including one of the best I've ever seen yesterday, and we're looking forward to more high quality play from both of them. So we just have standings in front of us from the last round. Not sure if they're posted online yet, but
they're not, so okay, listen up guys.
So with that win, in first place we have Nigel Richards at 27 wins plus 1458. Second place is
Masters, your parents are out. So all the parents are out. Please find the people and proceed to the next game. We are already 5 minutes behind time.
Michael taking a tight ship, making sure people aren't too late. Second place is David Eldar with a spread of plus 1671. And then in third place with a win in the last round is Harshan Lasuria, also at 26 wins, but he is 1,000 spread points behind David Eldar at plus 611. Esther Perrins, when she beat Alistair last round, went up to 25 wins and plus 926, the lone player at 25, so four of them very much still in the hunt. Alistair Richards, with that loss, is at 24 wins plus 1027, so by virtue of his high spread, still with a shot. And then in sixth place we have Ayurinde Saidu at 24 wins with plus 442, so very slim chances, but numerically there as long as he gets some really big wins for the rest of his games. Seventh place we got Jesse Day at 23 wins plus 628. I think mathematically out of it, but at the top of the players who are in hot pursuit.
So as this game kicks off, I'm just going to type some of that info into the chat as well for you guys to peruse, since the website seems to still be one round out of date. Meanwhile, I'll leave you with Jesse to have a look at that opening rack of David's. I see Nigel's looking a bit ominous with his first pickup.
Looks like Eldar has just changed 0-0. So he is among the players who prefers to exchange two vowel plays as opposed to play them.
Yeah, I quite like that play.
Yeah, and he has run very favorably as a result of that.
He'll be relieved to see that blank.
And with Nigel set to make a play here, most likely David will have some letters to play through. Now there's a play I wonder if Nigel will make.
Is it drilled?
Yeah. That's the one. And should be a double-double coming up here from David Eldar very shortly. One of the immediate options is serrated, but probably other words with better placement to minimize the comebacks. Ken, do you suggest that a 6-tile overlap may be a better option than playing the double-double?
I suspect he won't. David's not a fan of that reparalleling opening strategy against Nigel, as far as I know.
Puneet Sharma suggests estrades through the R and droil to get the double-double and to not place a vowel next to any of the triple letter scores. Lewis Mackay suggests an option that accomplishes the same thing with pederast. And Nigel has drawn the other blank after his opening play. Anand Bharadwaj suggests Cider 8 as another option for Eldar that doesn't put the vowels next to the triple letter scores. So no shortage of options here, certainly, for David Eldar.
So that's your top 11 players entered into the chat, guys. If there's another player whose fortunes you're curious about, let us know. We can tell you how they're doing after 40 games.
Another Australian expert, Ed Oculitz, confirms he remembers Eldar referring to a parallel to an opening bonus, even with one of one's own, as loser play. Not his style.
I think he feels it makes the board far too easy for Nigel to control. He criticised David again for doing something like this in a World semi-final against Nigel, the one that Nigel clean swept weekend in. I think it was Prague.
Yeah. Looks like, though, he may actually be going for a parallel play, based on what the Paco inputter was starting to type. We'll just wait to see exactly what goes down.
Yep, looks like it. So gotta eat my words. Didn't know his mind, his thought process as well as I thought on that one, if he has parallels. Wow.
Feasted. So apparently he has made the loser play.
Some fun 9-letter spotting times for Nigel.
Anti-Aarons has been thrown out there through the TI. Colin, I'm not going to get into the debate as to which is easier to control, but the objective factor to put in there is that there are more words and therefore more hooks in columns to consider when controlling the board, but there are more than enough players of both dictionaries in this chat that I'll leave that for you guys to set up.
Yeah, and let's also know that that was actually me putting words in Dave's mouth based on how I thought he was going to back up his position. So he may have a completely different opinion of it than the one I was speculating about. I'm not actually sure Nigel has a bingo beyond anti-Aarons here. And that makes it a little bit of an interesting choice whether he elects to play it or not. He may turn that one down. But he seems to be playing a few out based on the video feed, so we wait and see. And there it goes. What do you guys think of that one? Face value. Develops the left and the right simultaneously.
Well, as far as Eldar is concerned, even though it's disheartening to have two trade bonuses to start a game, that's about the best possible scenario for a blank being used for relatively few points. And the board's open and not in any danger of being closed, at least for a few turns here, depending on what David does.
Quick quiz, what's the 8-letter word in columns with David Eldar's tiles?
Handbook has been typed as the candidate for that.
I can confirm.
On your 8 game today, crowd.
I wasn't meaning to imply by saying Collins that it was only in the British lexicon. I realise that's how the question must have sounded to our American viewers.
Yeah. And oddly enough, Joshua, I was thinking something similar, but that's more of a North American joke, so I did not say Planned Parenthood, but now that you've written it there. Good morning to, I'm not sure how to read that. I assume those are Thai characters, so you must be watching from Thailand. Welcome to the chat.
And do let us know what you think David Eldar should do here. Of course, the plays that jump out are the 8A and 8O triple word scores. And certainly has decent options across to the left. Haven't quite yet found one I like across to the right. He'll be looking for non-bingo doubles in addition to that. So there's a few different lines for him to exhaust the possibilities of before committing to a play here. He certainly won't want to overlook any good scores, given that the bingo tiles have been depleted pretty rapidly at the early stages of the game, with both blanks, 2 S's on the board already, and a ton of really nice bingo letters already down, with very few of the awkward tiles played. So there could be some funky racks coming up. With that in mind, a 55-point deficit is a little bit uncomfortable already, I would think. I heard Edward Okulich really loves L's.
Looks like he's saying in the chat he hates L's.
I heard you like L's, so we put L's on your L's.
And based on Chris's pronunciation of your last name, I apologize, Ed. I had a different pronunciation in mind.
Dave goes for what looks like a pretty classical play of Honda. And leaves Nigel with some choices to make about heavy letters. Classical play looks like F2 JIZ for a bunch of points and kind of immobilizing the top left. Worth looking around, of course, to see if there's some nice way of playing those 2 tiles out one at a time to maximize the scoring value. Not sure that there is. But I'm very reluctant to call a Nigel move before he makes it, especially after what we saw last game with that dive out play.
Certainly the move generating the most discussion.
That guy has no fear whatsoever. And as a couple of commentators in the chat predicted, Nigel did elect not to drop both of those heavy tiles on the same turn. He loves playing racks out over 2 turns. It's a real feature of his play, and he feels like he can get all the positional advantage with jived that the other player F2 would also have achieved, while retaining the Z for other flexibility or possibly much larger scores on the next turn. We think that's the logic behind that move. Again, a move that many top players wouldn't quite have been bold enough to do, but Nigel totally fearless. He would have felt the risk of ruin was worse after the JIZ move because of the limited scoring tiles in the leaf. Possibilities here for Dave to develop the south of the board with his V at I9, and indeed that looks like it's about to be entered. But no, in fact, Malva has gone down. Nice little spot there. That ELL parallel is tricky to spot. So a good bit of board vision to spot it. And he kept LOT, didn't he? So that's a fairly high equity move in that position, and definitely getting the points. Keeping it pretty close, only 16 down. And you won't be too disappointed with that pickup. It's not a bingo, but very nice scoring consonants there. And a couple of spots for them have released the K, if he chooses to use it. Nigel's draw there of GPU not especially helpful for the leave that he kept. I don't really think it's given him any significantly better options than what he had in the leave already. Let us know in the chat if you disagree. I think everyone's pretty impressed with that play by Dave, though. We should pause to compliment it again before we move on. Very nice bit of board vision. Giving not very much at all back to Nigel.
Nigel had Trues as an option in that spot, now gone, and there is still Zoo or Uzo on the left for the quick points, but he does need to consider the P and the G in his rack if it's possible to perhaps split those, given that they don't work all that well together.
Yeah, I guess he might like to knock out the whole top left for bingos.
Out go.
He's holding that Z one more turn.
And so he's decided that scoring without the Z and getting rid of the GP anti-synergy combo was of greater importance, it looks like.
Yeah, and he presumably thinks that, well, that outgo is actually a little bit defensive. The bingo lines after outgo are way worse than the bingo lines were before outgo.
True.
So there is a defensive component to that play. But Nigel clearly thinks he's favourite here in the middle game position with a sub-bingo lead but scoring power and many of the best bingo tiles depleted already.
Yeah. Just to answer the question from our Thai friend, it is straight up King of the Hill pairing for every round now. There are no lagged pairings, so we have to wait for every single game to finish and every slip to be handed in before we know what the pairings are for the next round. So not really a lot of complication with the way that pairings are happening. It's just straight up King of the Hill.
I might just pop over to table 2 now and see if I can get a running update of that game.
Sounds good. Joseph McGinley has suggested Ponzu, but I'm not so sure that's the option to go with. It doesn't score enough, especially when Nigel's clearly intentionally held on to it for a while here. No easy high-scoring spot for Zippo for Nigel, which would be nice. Not a word you see come up all that often. And returning to the booth very quickly is our own Chris May.
Hi there, yeah, for once I got a clean view of one player's score sheet on table 2, which has been a rare luxury in this tournament. I can tell you guys that Esther and Harshan are locked in a very close game. It's about the same stage that this game's at. They're both within 10 points of each other in the 160s at the moment. And the board looks, it's not too dissimilar to this one actually. Fairly wide, certainly not a cagey board. There'll be plenty of bingos to go in that game, so we wait and see what happens.
So David Eldar has opted to keep the K back for plays maybe with Dak on the next turn, going for Gox instead. Perhaps he's decided that keeping the X on this board is not going to help him in the long run, so just unloading it and leaving himself a chance to score with the K soon after seems to be his line of thinking.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I like the look of that on a first glance. I obviously didn't get much of a chance to assess the position, but I have no quarrel with that from what I can see.
And as I mentioned while you were gone, it would be nice if Nigel had a way to score well with Zippo, but it's not so clear there, so more likely, yeah, like what we're seeing, Uzo.
And then the board's starting to tighten now, with Nigel having preserved his lead, and sadly Flick won't go for the catch-up score for David Eldar.
Lewis Mackay was suggesting Doppio before instead of Uzo, but looks like Nigel decided that wasn't worth the shot, so he went for Uzo instead. Another suggestion from Balogun Rashid was Oppo and Devo and Dap. Kenji suggests playing just Flick without the K. I'm wondering if you're referring to C11 for that placement.
I think he is. Certainly a creative suggestion. A little bit hard to see much for Dave that fits all of the traditional objectives with this sort of rack when you're a modestly trailing player. You know, he'd quite like to rid himself of those high-scoring consonants because, you know, there's quite a lot of high-scoring consonants left to draw. You don't really want to be keeping more than the necessary ones on the rack. So he's, in the end, opted to concede a bit of counterplay and play through it with Flick, keeping NT back.
And Nigel's got something like Kiki at the very least. David Eldar, meanwhile, has a lot of consonants on his rack this turn.
And he at least does have plenty of places to get rid of that W. That W is one of the best he could have drawn, given J10 and 11A both.
Yep. There are the clearer options like width or anything at J10 really to score with the W fairly easily.
Yeah, I think it would be WHIN there for me.
Yeah,
given a free shot.
Win, I think, for sure. It looks like Nigel's gone for copy. Ooh, nice.
Andrew Fisher played that with a C on day one and lost a turn for his troubles. That's the kind of thing I found impossible to keep straight when I was playing.
That's tough.
Yeah. So unless I'm missing one, I don't think Dave has the A11 to A15 play without spending his S. So he can get plenty of points for it if he elects to drop the S. He may think that it's not an S-friendly enough board to keep and go for those points, or he might decide to play down the J column. That looks a bit questionable now given where copy is in terms of board management and bingo chances. So maybe he thinks that playing whist, WHIST or whatever, will get him enough points to keep him, you know, more or less on level terms with Nigel here. I'll be quite interested to see what he thinks of the position. And let us know, guys. Sorry, before Jesse starts, let us know, guys, if you see some positional play that's not just down the J column and the A column.
So Nigel's picked, as Ying has mentioned, interesting pickup there. There's a little bit too much of a good thing here. An extra couple of I's and another E. Very manageable though. Another turn or so, and he's going to be looming to bonus again. Eldar has decided that taking the points is worth it, but opts to play Wurs and keep NT.
Probably that's a pool-based decision. Or I mean, really, there's not that much difference between his keep options there. NR would be the one you wouldn't do.
Yeah.
But Wurs, I'm not at all surprised to see that. Brings him in 7 points, and I think he thought the S just wasn't valuable enough to hold on to. Use it as a scoring tile instead, in effect.
He's got Eminent.
Is that good?
Or Eminent, pardon me, with the A. Never mind.
It's not good.
I'm thinking Eminent.
Nigel, he's been slowed down here, and as you see, both players feel that this is a board to use your S's when you get them. Nigel also plays it for just purely getting extra points there.
Nigel's got Iris.
Oh, I beg your pardon, no. I beg your pardon, guys. I'd forgotten that S was part of Antirin's existing.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
So this is one of those positions Eldar's in where I have a hard time not getting into my own head, because if I would say, if only I'd played Winds, I would have Remnant, on my rack instead. It's really hard to shake that off and just make the move that you have in front of you, especially when it seems like such a trivial choice last turn with NT and RT being essentially the same strength. As far as I can see, there's only one clear spot for Nigel to bonus next turn. I wonder if David will play down from J10 with the M now.
I'm not sure that that's a straightforward choice for him to do that.
Perhaps they disagreed on score. The clock was paused briefly. Colin, that is a good question. We'll see if we can get an update from the next table for you in just a few minutes here.
So if Dave does play down the J column with something like Amen, there's a good chance he still won't be taking out the bingo line. But he's going to be pretty concerned by Nigel's IE dump, I would say. So you might see him going for a bit more of a defensive play with something like Manette. That, of course, creates floaters. So a bit of a tricky position for Dave to navigate.
Do you think maybe he'd consider playing on row 14, even though it's less points?
I think he'd consider it, but I don't think he'd be able to bring himself around to doing it. But he has attempted to block row 14, as you see, and it turns out that's
paid off.
An excellent decision. A calculated risk. He could have created bingos for Nigel that Nigel wasn't holding by doing that. But he knew that there was a massive threat of 7 across row 14 there.
Is the blue vowel heavy, since he's dropped that E on as opposed to the T? Just looking really quickly here from his point of view. 7, not really. Interesting. Oh yeah, that's a good point from Aaron. It's better despite the lack of balance, because Nigel's play indicates he would need a consonant more often than a vowel.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very clever play from David Eldar. I applaud that one. And presumably it has obliged Nigel to make another reasonably low scoring play.
IE again, probably in some form. Or...
Well, we'll see. Whether Nigel's strategy is going to be limited to playing for a bingo here, I'm not sure, because the board may not accept much after Dave's next play. So Nigel may want to develop some sector here. You know, it's a dead level game, there's only 9 points in it here. And this is actually a play where Nigel has some competing strategies to assess. Let us know in the chat what you think you should do. Things like J2 area are on, for example. That's the AE spelling I'm thinking of.
So Ray, perhaps, REI, if he's making a play from there. Yeah, so...
You've done a pretty good job of anticipating Nigel's plays, I reckon. You should have a series with him and see how you do.
Oh, gosh. Well, it's a little bit easier when I can see his letters.
Yeah.
When you're sitting across from him, it is another story entirely, trying to predict. And then, as we've seen even last round, even when you can see all the letters that he has, figuring out what on earth he's doing. So the game is essentially level, 7 spread points difference over to Eldar.
And this is going to be a late game tactical battle, which is going to be really, really good to watch, I feel. The last time these two players played one of those, it was in game 38, and it was a stunner.
So David has an N to hook array to make rain words, and with his lack of vowels, being able to combine that N placement with the E and amine somehow would be ideal. I'm not seeing anything that accomplishes that.
No, me either.
That would be the perfect world, having that work.
And Dave's still going to be a bit scared of a bingo. On the 14 row, worth noting that there are no Ds out that Nigel could have. That's another nice feature of amine that we didn't pick up on at the time. It only takes the D back hook, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Let me just check.
So that's that makes Dave's play even better.
Yeah, just to D.
Yeah. So I think when he played it, no D's out. So it was a beautiful block of row 14.
Yeah, the other issue with ament is that, of course, it does take the S, unlike, and then it also takes an A. So a little bit more options there. Limiting them.
Worth noting, Nigel knocked out the O column, which was on with a word starting with O, before Ray went down. I'm just going to go check out table 2.
Looks like David's finally made a play. Perhaps, yeah, fire. There we go. Keeping NTT. Kenji's preference is for button for the O in out go. Eldar, meanwhile, doing that classic thing that we all fear, drawing the Q after playing U. Whereas the converse case when playing the Q, drawing the U. But yeah, this is a bit of a twist as Eldar picks up that Q just after the U. He does have the option to play Chin through the IN jive, or there's Kat underneath jived actually, that's even better, and I see Aaron has pointed the same thing out.
Esther Perrins has just gone to bingo up over Harshan on their table 2 game. Things looking promising for her.
And just continuing this amazing run for her, after starting well, then dropping for a bit and just, storming through.
Yeah, she dropped to well over halfway down the field at one point.
28 or something.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
So great story to see. We love comeback stories. Balagoon, I don't think will be doing the closing ceremony or prize presentation. This is just meant for the games.
I think I'll be drinking beer by then.
Yeah, you're certainly on the table for us after 45 games.
You're not heading straight to the airport, are you, Jesse?
No, I leave at 7.
Okay, cool.
Back to the airport, so I have some time to drink.
We can play more games.
There's actually a friend of ours who is on his way to Singapore as we speak, who will be coming across the Causeway to meet us here as we wrap up. Josh indicating a tell that is actually fairly common. I would agree that people check the bag whenever they draw the cue, and that they noticed that Eldar did so. And Nigel blocking easy cue plays.
That's an amazing move.
Yep. Cut. Or tag, it looks like he's playing instead. Interesting. So he's opting not to play the cue, it looks like. Oh yeah, because cut doesn't play down there yet, so tag.
Dave, pressure is on him to keep scoring and keep in touch on such a tight board. Even a 20-point lead is now a hugely significant lead on this board.
Yeah. And Nigel's holding most of the letters that would go well with a cue.
So if he suspects that Dave has got it, which he may well given that last play, he knows he's a significant favourite to win now.
Ooh,
and that is pure pain for David Eldar.
Horrific.
That draw. Well, there's only 9 tiles in the pool. Nigel will certainly take it down under 7, I would think. That would be, I mean, if it were me making this play that Nigel's got,
Tiles.
I would be absolutely committing to playing 3 tiles to prevent the opponent exchange. And if the opponent exchange is prevented, well, it's extraordinarily hard to see a path to win for Dave here. You know, it looks close on the scoreboard, but this is hugely favouring Nigel now.
And just having the vision to block the easiest place to play the cue, just that high-level play all the time is quite something.
Ha! Nigel does not take it down below 7. In fact, he sets up the cue. What do you guys make of that?
Mystifying.
Was he holding the case A? He certainly wasn't holding the case A and the case I. So, I don't know. Again, it's quite hard to call Nigel's play in real time sometimes, because he makes so many unexpected moves that aren't classical. But to me, my instinct is that the besom is an inference that Dave has the cue, but the woeful looks like a cue setup.
Yeah.
So they're almost contradictory.
Yeah. Although Eldar, I think, even though it's terrible, he obviously has a chance to exchange. He surely will.
I think it's his only half chance.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll keep the cue?
That would just be crazy. But it's possible.
Guys, I'm wondering, is it insane for Dave to keep the cue on a change here?
Well, we'll find out shortly what he exchanged. Let's see what they type in the top. No, he's exchanging it.
He's throwing it back. Keeping the W. Is that right? That's what we're being told in Quackle.
He, hang on. Q, T, T. Yeah, he's exchanged everything but W.
Where's he playing that W? Guys in the crew, we found that keep of W slightly surprising from Dave, so it would be great to just get a shot of his rack to make sure we do have completely correct information. Meanwhile, question for the chat, what's the logic behind keeping W as opposed to keeping T or keeping even Q?
Yeah, he does have the W on his rack. That is a confirmed set of 7 letters. Katipo suggests that
Thanks, guys.
play of Woe and Rock is what Eldar is saving up for here. Since we can't see the board, I'm forgetting where that would be. Genji says keeping the W is okay. It's the best scoring tile.
The W...
Oh, Iwi and Rock.
Yeah, I mean, that is a big score on this board.
And yeah, so basically any of the OE scores down there. It's clever.
And basically, there's a landmine in the bag now, and that's the Q.
And Nigel will surely think that Eldar has changed the cue here. So,
well, you must think so.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a... one of the classical strategies in a position like this is you play assuming that you're not going to draw the cue, right? So you actually block cue spots and hope to stick your opponent with it.
Yeah.
There's one cue spot that's almost unblockable, however, and that's E3. So if anyone's going to play for a cue stick, they're going to have to attend to that.
So there goes Racy
And that
Nigel.
And that's minimizing his chances of drawing the cue, blocking the W spot, and giving himself an extremely strong 40-point lead. That's a massive lead on this board. And Dave may have to...
He's blocking the easy cue spot.
He's blocking the
hoping
easy
he won't
cue
draw.
spot. And Josh comments in the chat, Nigel has this under control, and it's hard to disagree.
He doesn't have the cue, so he's got fatties in his rack.
He doesn't have the cue, and he's got a spot that Dave has to just sacrifice everything if he's going to block. And that's the E3 spot.
So we're waiting for Dave's new rack. That was his old one.
So Nigel, 22 points to play with. Only 2 tiles in the bag. And Dave has the cue back. Well, I think this one's curtains now. So Nigel Richards almost certainly going to win both games first up this morning, which will see him out to a 2-game lead over David, but not necessarily a 2-game lead over Harshan.
Yeah, if Harshan wins, he is 1 game back.
And if Esther wins, she was leading last time we checked in, then there'll be 3 players 2 games back of Nigel with only 4 rounds to play. Nigel will be looking good. And who could argue with his play?
So as far as...
in fact, we could argue with some of his play.
As far as the tournament goes, for more variety in chances for winners, the best thing would be for Harshan to win, so he'd be 1 within, and then have a chance to take on Nigel and pull him back down.
But of course, we don't know how that game's going to turn out. Last we checked, Esther was up 1 bonus, yes?
Correct. And in fact, if this game goes to Nigel, it's just going to be Nigel and David again on the top table. Assuming that Esther wins,
But she won't win by enough to pass Eldar yet.
Correct, yeah.
So basically, if Harshan comes back to win, it'll be him and Nigel. If Esther wins, it will be David and Nigel yet again.
With basically a must-win game for Dave to stop Nigel going 3 games clear of him with 3 to play. That would be one hell of a comeback.
Bill, the reason for Bisom as opposed to Bevy was to block Cat plays, QAT plays at 5C. We're fairly certain.
There's a possibility suggested in the chat that Nigel actually inferred the cue on Dave's rack from Dave's body language, the fact that he counted tiles after drawing it. Myself, I didn't catch that. I think I was off checking board 2, but that would be an impressive catch from Nigel. We know that he actually does spend time watching his opponent and watching other players in the room during his games, so maybe he has a bank of information of that kind.
That's a good point. Bevy still blocks it. Thank you. I wasn't looking at that part of the board for some reason. My bad. Yeah, it's interesting why he wouldn't have just played Bevy instead of Bisom if he's just looking to block.
True enough. And then, of course, you have to take into account Woeful, which almost made the contrary implication concerning the cue.
Yeah.
So we don't quite know what Nigel was thinking, as usual.
Keeps us guessing.
The best we can do is keep trading ideas, so keep the chat active, guys. Besem also stopped the play from J2 down with an E or an A developing the top right. Maybe Nigel liked the complete immobilization of that area, and as you can see, that worked. No one's going to be developing there.
Yeah, and as Kenji points out, Nigel has fetation through the O.
Oh god. Okay. So good night, David Eldar. Unfortunately for the tournament, I mean. Not because I'm particularly biased.
Yeah, that's a toughie.
And I'm going to have a little look at table 2, see if Harshan's managed to engineer some kind of a comeback.
So as Chris pointed out, another reason for Bisom, which makes more sense, besides blocking, was that Bevy didn't prevent the development of the board through Soma or some plays down the J column, whereas Bisson does. So David's play TO to give himself a place to play QI. And it looks like Nigel's put down the letters forfeitation.
Board 2 looks like it's a pretty dramatic close pre-end game there. Both players still have full racks, very few tiles in the bag. Harshan has caught up most of the deficit and holds a blank, and is down to only 1 minute of thinking time with probably 2-3 moves still to play. Esther has 4 minutes, so that one could go either way.
So Nigel's just sitting at the table. I don't see Eldar there at all. I think Vitation was an outplay, possibly.
Eldar probably
Perhaps walking away in frustration.
well, you might have challenged it, right?
Well, you would think both would get up, but check, no. Nigel's still
Suppose.
sitting. Wouldn't be like Nigel just to sit and let someone else check. He would walk with them, so. Or is... No, I see a hand. I was going to see if our each was frozen. But, yeah, I just see... I'm looking through the window. Nigel at the board alone, just writing, so... yeah, I'm going to say Eldar's probably slightly annoyed.
In response to Kenji's chat comment about my preferences between these two players, I actually don't have a strong preference between these two players. Of course, I know Dave very well, and we're from the same country, but I love watching Nigel play. I could watch him all day, and I learn more from him than anybody else, so I have no objection to the best player in the world winning the toughest tournament in the world.
And yeah, to the credit of everyone else in the room as well, Nigel hasn't won yet, of course, but many of us thought it was possible he would run away with it early.
He went 8-0 on day one. He headed the pack by a clear game more than once and got pulled back. And then Dave, at one point yesterday, was 2 games ahead of anyone else.
Yeah.
But he's on a big losing streak now. I think he might have lost 5 of the last 6 games, maybe. And I think 4 of them are to Nigel.
That's draining, absolutely.
Very draining.
So you can't really blame him for that.
And this was a hard game for him, a very, very closed board and lots of difficult choices, so he'd be feeling a bit sapped. This could just be a coffee-related break, I think.
Oh, maybe, yeah. He's just run back to the board.
Yeah.
He looks totally fine. So, they're just going to get the paperwork all signed up here, but yeah, perhaps a bathroom break, coffee, something like this, but game's over. Nigel bonus is out. I'm guessing, perhaps under time pressure, Eldar did not see it and just gave himself a possible queue setup.
So this one's done, and we're not yet certain whether the next game on board 1 will feature David Eldar again against Nigel Richards, or as a possibility that will be Nigel and Harshan if he can get out of that end game against Esther that's currently in progress. So shall we take a little break, Jesse?
Yeah, I don't see the point of staying on the air and just waiting. We can update you in the next round once those games are done. It's 4 minutes away from the start, the official start at least, of the next round, so we shouldn't be back any later than possibly 10 at most 15 minutes from now.
Yep.
So until then, Jesse and Chris signing off. We'll be back in Johor Bahru for the next round very soon.
Thanks, guys.